All right, YouTube, what's going on? So, I got a quick video for you guys tonight. Just wanted to talk about something that I found to be interesting. So, I was just reading some news articles, doing my little daily internet research, getting bored, looking stuff up on the internet. And I came across this article here from the Business Insider, and it's talking about how Gen Z, my generation, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably Gen Z as well. So, our generation, pretty much how Gen Z is the ghosted generation, as this headline reads here, and why we were like left behind, right? And it was interesting. I read through this pretty quickly. I didn't do like a deep read, but I found the headline to be interesting, and it started to make me think like about why this is a problem, right? And I think if you've watched any of my videos, you've seen that I've talked about this topic before. This isn't the first time that I've made the video about like Gen Z and what like the problems that we go through. But I guess from my perspective as a young man, a young Gen Z man, I guess it does seem like to an extent that our generation has been left out of like everything, right? Like people always talk about the 90s was like the best time and how life pretty much before like we came along was much better than how it is now. Like the economy, prices were cheaper, everything was just more fun. It was more natural, less smartphones, etc. Right? So, when I saw this, I'm thinking like, okay, like, is there any truth to this? Do other Gen Z people feel this way? Like, I didn't go out and ask other Gen Z people, but I'm just thinking about it because, okay, yes, on one hand, I do agree. Like I just said, I would argue like, yes, we definitely have gotten left out of a lot of things that I guess society used to include the young people in, like marriage. They mentioned marriage in this. That as an institution has been pretty much completely falling off in terms of like young people getting married. It's not really something that you do as a young person anymore. Buying a home under 30 is damn near impossible, like unless you make a fuck ton of money, so like just these like basic societal things that used to come with being an adult, a young adult, we don't really seem to have access to anymore, right? So on one hand you can say Gen Z definitely is getting left out, right? But I also would like to like look at it from maybe our perspective in terms of how it's really not as bad as this article or these types of headlines like to make it seem, right? Like, okay, yes, my generation, my age bracket, we may have gotten left out of these things, and I'm not saying that buying a home or not being able to buy a home is a good thing, but we have to also think about everything else that comes with the world that we live in now. It's not the same world that we lived in 30 years ago. So to act as though Gen Z and our generation is just so far behind, I don't really think that's fair either. And I think if anything, that makes us, or the people who believe this, that makes them like fall for this type of narrative even more. Like it's a whole like faction of Gen Z people who believe that their life is over already. Like, bro, you're 19 years old, you haven't even done anything, but they think like, oh, the economy, home prices are just unaffordable, everything like is just not fair for us. Like they think the system is broken against us, which again, I'm not saying that the system isn't, or I'm not saying that the system is in our favor, but we can't just act like we don't have anything better, I guess, right? So I'm just gonna go through a couple of these paragraphs in this article that I guess stuck out to me. Like I said, one of them was about marriage, so we can talk about that. Why I think marriage probably has fallen off amongst our age bracket as well, and just anything else that I see is interesting. So let's just take a look. Okay, so pretty much as soon as you get into the article, there's like this first paragraph that I'm sort of gonna like side with the people who wrote this article on, in terms of like the perspective that Gen Z needs to just suck it up and stop complaining about stuff. Because let me just read to you guys what it says. So it says, when she graduated from the Pratt Institute during COVID, whatever, and let me read you guys what degree this person got. They got a degree in sculpture. They were a sculpting major, and they said that absolutely set the tone for the rest of my attempt at a career. They took an intensive blah 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 boot camp, started applying for jobs. They had to get over 400 applications before they can get a job. My miserable blah blah blah. And the reason I wanted to quickly go over that is because I think this whole sculpting major, the basket weaving, this has been like a running joke for the last couple of years, but it does have some truth to it. There are a lot of people in my age bracket, Gen Z, who go to school for useless degrees. And I had like a controversial post somewhat go viral last summer about this, and I pretty much took the stance of like, yes, Gen Z, we are going to school for useless degrees way more than any other age bracket before us ever did. And people go to school for no reason now. Like, everybody is encouraged to go to college now, and that is not how it was 30 years ago. And I'm not saying going to college is a bad thing, But we should seriously be considering if every single person that graduates high school needs to go to college. And that's what they try to make it seem as if, like, if you graduate high school, you need to go to college. That's not the way for most people. And that's why most people end up having student loan debt that they don't even have a degree to pay off. You know how many people have student loans that have no degree to pay the student loans off in the first place? Credit card debt, car loans. Like, once you get into debt and then you don't have a degree to function, even if you have a degree, this person here, a sculpting major, like, you have to think about this. So you can't be Gen Z, 26 years old, getting a sculpting degree and then complaining that the world isn't fair. Like, that's just not, that's what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. We have to be fair to ourselves as well. Like, don't make it seem like the world or the system is completely against us. Why are you getting a sculpting degree? But then on this part of the paragraph, this is where I'm going to have a bit of clapback and like sort of take the side of my fellow Gen Zers, because it's reading here that it says Gen Z has been called the most anxious generation, the most risk adverse generation, the most stressed generation, and the most burnt out generation, and the loneliest generation, right? So you got all these things: stressed out, lonely, risk averse, blah, blah, blah. Why do y'all think that is? This is where I'm gonna say the society or the system, whatever you want to call it, does play a part in this. Like the whole getting a basket weaving sculpting degree, this here, that is under our control once you become an adult, right? But this whole burnt out, lonely, risk averse, that's a result of the society that we grow up in. That has nothing to do with us being who we are as Gen Z. That's the society that we live in. If you grow up in a world that constantly tells you to never take a risk, or if you do anything outside the ordinary, you're weird, or like you, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like they shun kids being kids nowadays. So of course Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, the people after us, they probably even worse. Like, what do you really expect? And then lastly, this is what I was talking about in the very beginning of the video. It's talking about how we really don't get married anymore. You know, it says here that today the median age for marriage is 31 years old and 29 for women. And I believe, does it mention what it was back in the day? I don't believe so. But if I think I've read this before. It mentions here in the early 20s. I think the average age of marriage in like the 60s for a man was, I think, 24 and maybe 22 for a woman. So it's going up almost like 7-8 years respectively, right? And that's a huge jump. Getting married at almost 30 years old is it just shows how much or how drastically different the society that we live in today is from what we lived in 100 or even 50 years ago. Like, we have such an independent mindset. Everybody, like, nobody really wants to build towards anything. Everybody is selfish. Everybody is only oriented towards getting materialistic goods for themselves and having a nice Instagram. We've lost what it means to really have a purpose beyond ourselves, right? And I think this article encapsulates that perfectly, because again, like I said in the beginning, it's not all on the system and it's not all on us. It's a balanced, I guess, like consequence, if that's the right way to say it. Like, it's 50-50, right? We play a role, but the world we live in that was shaped by the people before us also plays a role, right? So that's what I'm trying to say there. But overall, we have to just be realistic with our situation and try to just make better decisions. You know, like, I like to end every video saying that, like, yo, Gen Z, if you're watching this, everything that I talk about is around our finances and our money management, right? Because ultimately, the way you manage your money is going to determine how you live your life. Like, obviously, I know money is not everything, but money is mostly everything as a human being, especially in today's world. We don't live in a barter system. We live in America. You need money, right? So if you're in debt up to your ears, you're broke, fabric degrees, whatever you get a useless degree. These things are going to hold your life back, and it's going to have a negative effect on you mentally. Like, your financial life flows into the rest of your life. This is what I said in my video yesterday, or the day before yesterday, whenever this goes up, right? So I'm not going to talk too long. Quick video going over this article, but Gen Z, if you're watching this, please keep your finances in mind. We need more people who are financially literate and who are aware of what's going on. And people like this person in this article, I'm sure they're a great person, but getting a degree in sculpting is not a good idea. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna talk about. That's all I'm gonna say for tonight. As always, it's been your boy Brandon Davis. I'm out.